Hey, it's Michael with the Y, and you're listening to My Reality Recap, the only podcast where I get to talk about all of my feelings towards the shows that I love. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the semifinals on Dancing with the Stars, the Witch's Coven on Survivor, the Unconventional Challenge on Project Runway Jr., and part 1 of the America's Next Top Model finale. I hope you're ready for this, so put your glasses on and get ready to stir the pot with me. I'm flying completely solo again this week for all of you beautiful listeners out there, so I'm just going to jump right in and start discussing these TV shows that I love oh so much. So Dancing with the Stars this week, it was the semifinals, and all of the dancers came out on stage at the start of the episode, but Tamar Braxton was missing, and if you listened to my podcast last week, you know what happened, so I'm not going to reveal it until we get to that part of the show. But there was 3 rounds of dancing this week. Round 1 was the normal dance they had to do. Bindi and Derek did a salsa, and her choreography is getting to be so hard and so complicated, but she's able to keep up and keep going with Derek, and she's starting to look like a serious professional dancer, and it's pretty amazing to see, but the judges wanted a little more sexy from her. Yeah, she's only 17, but it's the salsa. You gotta be sexy and just like move it and groove it. So she only got a 27 out of 30 stars. Alec and Lindsay did a waltz. It was very patriotic because he is in the military, and it was a pretty dance, but he didn't really do that much. In this type of a dance, the woman is usually the one moving around and doing everything, so he was just kind of like chasing her around. Didn't do a lot of dancing, but he got a perfect 30 out of 30, and I was like, okay, the judges are possibly playing favorites this week to him. Carlos and Whitney did a contemporary dance. There was like ropes hanging from the ceiling, and he was swinging around in it, and he was shirtless, and I was like, oh my god, my jaw dropped a couple times. I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was so good, but Carrie Ann didn't get it. And she was saying that he was over dancing in his facial expressions, and I was like, Carrie Ann, no, he was not. So he only got a 28 out of 30 for that dance. Nick Carter and Sharna did a tango, and he actually messed up in the middle of the dance. They stopped dancing for a quick second, had a quick pep talk, and then kept going. And I give props to him for keep going, because a lot of people just were like, fuck my life, I can't believe I just messed up on national television. But he got right back into it and just went for it. But they ended up getting a 24 out of 30. After those 4 performed, they brought up Tamar Braxton and Val, and they started to show clips from what happened to her last week, because last week she was missing for half of the episode because she was at the hospital. She showed up just in time for her group dance, and then she went straight back to the hospital. They ended up finding that she had multiple blood clots in her lungs, and so she decided to withdraw from the competition. So Tamar Braxton is out, and we only have 4 dancers left in the competition. Right after that, they went straight into round 2, and round 2 is the dance-off, and in the dance-off round, you get 3 extra points added to your score. The first matchup was Bindi versus Nick, and they did a samba, and Bindi's was spectacular. The choreography was out of this world. I'm just like, this girl is seriously bringing it every week now. She's so talented, I can't get over it. And Nick did a really good job on his too. Like, I was like, this is going to be kind of close. His partner, Sharna, I just want to give her mad props, though, because she is an incredible choreographer and dancer. Like, I could honestly just watch her all day just dance and do whatever she wanted. The judges ended up giving the 3 extra points to Bindi and Derek. And then, so that means, because there's only 2 other people left, that the last matchup was Carlos versus Alec, and they did a cha-cha. And Alec didn't really do much dancing. It was mostly picking up Lindsay, moving her around, kind of like what he did for the waltz. But Carlos brought it. There was a lot of depth to it, and he was dancing, moving around. And so the judges gave the 3 extra points to Carlos and Whitney. Round 3 for this week was the trio round, and that is when each team has to add another professional dancer to the mix. So Bindi and Derek added Mark Ballas, and they did a jazz. And holy shit, this dance was amazing. They had like a box on stage. They were doing all this contemporary weird stuff. It was mind-blowing. The artistry to this dance was out of this world. Everybody needs to go on YouTube and watch it. It was amazing. It was so simple but so complex, but it was art. And it was genius. They got a perfect 30 out of 30. Alec and Lindsay brought in Emma, and they did the Argentine tango, and it was a really great dance, but you can totally tell he is not a professional dancer, and that's what pisses me off. If he's supposed to be at the semifinals of this competition, you should be acting like a professional. Some of the other people can do it. I don't get why he's still there and not able to do it. Very frustrating. But they only got a 27 out of 30. Carlos and Whitney added Karina, and they did a Charleston, and this dance was so good. You could not tell that he was the professional dancer in this one, and he was spot on in everything. It was such a fun dance. I wanted to be a part of it. but Carrie Ann gave him a 9, and I'm calling bullshit because she wanted to make sure that Bindi could stay on top or be tied with him at the end of the night, and so I just think that she was nitpicking way too much, so he got a 29 out of 30 when it should have been a perfect 30. Nick and Sharna added PETA, and they did a good dance. It was better than Alec, but it just didn't really read professional like Bindi and Carlos do, because those two are just so good. And he got a perfect 30 out of 30, which is complete bullshit because Carlos did not even get a 30 out of 30. Very upsetting round 3 for me, although there was some great choreography going on. So the final scores for the night, there was a tie for first place between Bindi and Derek and Carlos and Whitney. They both had 60 out of 60. Alec and Lindsay got a 57 out of 60, and Nick and Sharna had a 54 out of 60. And because Tamar Braxton withdrew from the competition, nobody was eliminated. So next week is the finale, and I am seriously hoping that either Bindi or Carlos win, because if Nick or Alec win, I'm going to be very devastated. And I personally want to see Carlos win because this whole season has been made for Bindi, and if she wins, it's going to be so predictable, and it's another win for Derek Huff. Ugh, come on, people. Just give it to Carlos and Whitney. Things got pretty witchy on Survivor this week, and I could not be happier with the way the season is going so far. So the episode started with everybody coming back from tribal council, and last week Kelly played her idol and they blindsided Savage. And Kimmy and all the other people were very nervous, but Kimmy started calling these 3 girls of Kelly Wentworth, Sierra, and Abby witches and a witches coven. And so on the TV screen they did hashtag witches coven, and it's giving me so much life because I love witches and I love these 3 girls, and now they have an alliance name. But everybody was so excited that Kelly did that because it was a great move. But now that everybody knows that idols are in the game, everybody was looking for them, trying to find a clue, and it just caused some more madness in the game. The reward challenge was a puzzle maze, and Spencer, Steven, Joe, Tasha, and Sierra killed it. And Sierra just always is subtle at doing strategy at the rewards. I think it's pretty genius how she does it, because everybody's trying to like escape from the game and just enjoy their time, but she's always just like, you guys, what are you thinking about this? She's very nonchalant. I love it. She is a very smart player. But back at camp, Jeremy was looking around for this idol clue, and he found the clue. He already has an idol. Let me remind everybody about that. So he has one idol. He found the clue to the second one, and all he had to do to get the second idol was wake up super late at night, walk to a path, and grab it. They had a map and everything. I thought that was so stupid. I loved it when they actually put it at the challenge, because it would have been more genius for him to like try to get it in front of everybody. Why'd they do that? So now Jeremy has 2 idols. Makes me nervous. I don't really want him to win because he has the 2 idols and I'm going to be bitter. So hopefully there's a blindside coming his way soon. At the immunity challenge, they had to stand on... the only way I can really explain it is like a doghouse in the water that's floating. So it's like a triangle platform, and there's different levels to it. So they have to balance on this, 1 foot on each side of the doghouse. And they have to stand there for a certain amount of time. And then each time they have to move up the doghouse until they're up at the top. And then they have to balance on 1 foot until somebody falls off. But when everybody's out there, Jeff decided to throw a little twist in the game, and he launches all these buoys that are about maybe 20 feet in front of the doghouses, and he was like, the first person to get to their buoy gets an advantage in the game. Go. Instantly, Steven and Spencer both jump off their doghouses, and they're swimming to these buoy. Steven gets there first, and he gets the advantage. He doesn't know what it is at this point, so Jeff Probst gives him a little piece of paper. Boom, that's it. Back to the challenge. Everybody starts dropping out as soon as they move up to the top level. And it eventually comes down to Joe, Kelly Wigglesworth, and both Joe and Kelly are yogis in the real world, and so they're pretty good at balance, and Abby. And in the end, it came down to Joe and Abby, and they're balancing on 1 foot on this little doghouse, floating in the water and in the rain, and Joe pulled out the win. So this was his 3rd immunity in a row. He's becoming unstoppable, but these people are going to have to get him out as soon as he loses that immunity. Once they get back to camp, we find out what Steven's power is, and it is that he can actually take somebody's vote at tribal council, and that's going to be a pretty big thing to have later on in the game. So back at camp, the 8-person alliance really wants to break up the 3 witches, but Steven wants to use these witches because they're at the bottom of the totem pole, they're desperate, they will do anything. He wants to use them to make a big move. And so they go to tribal council. We don't really know what's going to happen. We just know that it's either going to be Kelly Wentworth, Sierra, or Kelly Wigglesworth if these witches can pull something out of their back pocket. And this tribal council was very heated. There was so much tension. Everybody was on each other's nerves. It gave me a Survivor boner. It was so real, and it was downpouring rain on these people, so they're freezing outside, fighting for their lives. They don't know what's going to happen. They go to vote, and it comes up to be 2 votes for Kelly Wentworth, 3 votes for Sierra, and the witches and a couple other people voted for Kelly Wigglesworth. So she was blindsided. Kelly Wigglesworth is the runner-up from the very first season of Survivor. So it was very sad to see her kind of go, but she was so boring this season. Ugh, come on. What happened to you, Kelly? You used to be a badass bitch in the 2000s. What happened in 2015? Anyways, it was a really great episode, and I just really hope that this Witches Coven can keep it together. I want them to go as far as they can in this game. I feel like this week is going to be really tricky for them. The only thing that can save them this week, I feel like, is if Joe is the one who loses immunity, because it's like, boom, easy out to get Joe. But it's going to be pretty tricky. They're going to have to do some black magic and stir the pot to make sure they can stay around for a little while. This is the part of my podcast where I need to talk about my sponsor, and because the holidays are approaching so quickly, I wanted to give a little love to my Etsy shop, NG My Designs. In my Etsy store, you can find some fancy handmade bow ties, beanies, fanny packs, and infinity scarves. We even do custom orders if you have something else in mind too. All of the accessories that we make are perfect to wear for any holiday party or event you have coming up, or they're the perfect gift to give. All of you listeners can receive a 20% off your total purchase of $20 or more by entering the code MYRR20 at the checkout. Visit www.ngmydesigns.etsy.com to shop NGMI and save. Once again, that's www.ngmydesigns.etsy.com. And speaking of designs and making things, the junior designers on Project Runway Junior had a really big challenge this week of the unconventional challenge, and they took them to a car wash. And so these kids are at a car wash, and they had to make gowns and outfits out of things that you would find at a car wash. So there's like the gloves that you would use to wash and dry the car off. There was mops, there was keychains, basically anything that you would have inside your car or anything outside of the car, these kids had to use. My favorite looks this week were Zachary, Maya, and Jesse, while the bottom looks were Isabel, Bridget, and Matt. And after the judges gave their critiques, they ended up having 4 looks that were the top, and those 4 were Patty, I think that's how you say her name, and she used mops to make a crop top, and it was a really cool texture design. It looked like it was knitted, actually, but it was mops. And then she had a skirt made out of more mops, and it gave like this fringe effect, so when it walked on the runway, there was lots of movement. Very cute. You couldn't really tell it was mops, it just looked like lots of fringe. Samantha used car wash gloves to do a fun color blocking dress. For Jesse's dress, he used the shields that you put in front of like your front car window. I don't think that's what it's called. The dashboard window. Is that what it's called? Anyways, whatever you put up in there to block the sun, that's like silver and metallic, he used that to make this really fun dress that was very metallic, and the sleeves were made of colorful keychains. Zachary used car mats to make a skirt, so like little spiky things, you could see that on the skirt, and then he used metallic flags for the top, so it was very shiny, very edgy, very good. They only had 2 bottom looks this week, and those 2 were Matt, and he had an awful skirt, and there was like tubing wrapped around the model's legs, and she couldn't really walk down the runway. It looked like he just like wrapped this tube around this girl, didn't put any time or effort into it. Very sad. And Isabel's look was a sponge top, and then her skirt was made out of flags. It was really bad. It looked really trashy, really awful. In the end, the top look and the winner of this challenge was Zachary in his car mat skirt and metallic flag top. And the eliminated designer was Isabel with her sponge awful flag dress thing. Ugh, really bad. But these kids are so incredibly talented. I love watching the show just because they're so young and so good. But I do think I have a favorite, and my favorite is Maya, and she is the youngest 13-year-old out there. So Maya, I hope you stick around a while. You're a cool kid. On America's Next Top Model, it was the first part of the finale, and we are down to the final 4 of Mikey, Mame, Lacey, and Niall. And this episode was honestly so boring. It kind of seemed like a complete waste of my time. I don't get why they add so much stupid drama into it, but I'm just going to jump right in. At the end of the episode last week, Tyra made it clear that the final runway would have 1 boy and 1 girl, so that's basically Mikey versus Niall and Mame versus Lacey. And the house ended up being divided with Mikey and Mame together and Lacey and Niall together. And there was so many backstories about these people. Like, they kept telling all about their past, where they came from. We've heard it every episode this season, so I don't get why they keep dragging it out and telling us so much more. Ugh, very annoying. So they ended up doing the photo shoot for Nylon magazine, and this is the one that the winner of Top Model will get to have their spread in. And at the photo shoot, they had to break into a school. Well, they didn't have to break into school. They were already in the school, but it made it seem like they were breaking into a school. And they each had their time with the photographer, and his name was Cobra. And there was a puppy on set at one point, and so Lacey picked it up, and it was during Mame's photo shoot time. and the photographer saw Lacey. He moves the camera and starts shooting Lacey playing with this puppy, and Lacey started working it. So she stole the spotlight from Mame when Mame was supposed to be doing her photo shoot for the magazine. I thought that was hilarious. Mame was super pissed off, and Lacey was like, well, looks like I stole the spotlight. And she did, because Lacey is in it to win it, and she knows what to do because she's always working and posing fiercely. And then they even did couple photos, and Lacey and Niall ended up being together, and Mikey and Mame were together. And just seeing Lacey and Niall together just makes me want them to get married and have beautiful babies. I mean, I want to get married and have beautiful babies with Niall, but if he doesn't want to go for me, he needs to go for Lacey. They also did a second photo shoot for this episode, and it was for Zappos Couture, and it's the campaign that I get to be a part of, and the winner gets to do everything, and it was just an amazing photo shoot that was really edgy, but we didn't get to see any of the pictures that happened this episode, which was very devastating for me, because that's like my favorite part. So they ended up taking the models to where the final runway was going to be. They brought back all of the previously eliminated models, and even last season's winner, Keith Carlos. Seeing the eliminated models coming back caused a little drama for Mame because she was with Justin earlier this season, and now she's been flirting with Mikey, and Devin told Justin about it, and I just hope it throws Mame off her game so she doesn't work it so Lacey can take that final female spot. Tyra shows up and surprises everybody, and she's like, I have a surprise for you all. Your moms are still here. Ah! So many moms. It's weird. Like, I don't see why the moms had to be there for them backstage anyways. Like, what about the dads? What happened to the dads? They have dads too. But it was all mom love. And then right at the end of the episode, Tyra was like, it's time for the elimination. Right before they walk the runway, they're going to eliminate 2 people. But of course, we got a to be continued. So we do not know which 2 finalists make it to the end. But looking ahead, I really feel like Niall and Lacey are the 2 that have to make it to the end because they've just been bringing their A game throughout this entire season. They've changed up their looks. But I honestly feel like if it does come down to those 2, they need to give the win to Lacey just because she's been more versatile this season. Don't get me wrong, Niall is so sexy and so attractive, and when you see a picture, you just feel things throughout your entire body. But I mean, the same thing happens to Lacey too, but Niall has those eyes. But his looks are kind of the same because I just think male models don't have to work as hard as females, and that's what Tyra's trying to change in the show. And I mean, these guys are working it and doing lots of stuff, but I just feel like Lacey deserves it in the end. But I do think they will give it to Niall just because him being deaf would make a great story and great PR and branding for the series, especially since it is the final episode and season ever. Top model RIP. I only get to talk about it one more time unless I get an interview with somebody from the show. So sad. Keep it together. We can do it. Well, I want to thank all of you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like what you heard today, please click that subscribe button and give this podcast a 5-star rating. That'll make me feel really good inside. And I want to keep the conversation going with all of you. Tweet me at Michael with a Y or hashtag MYRR to let me know all of your thoughts and feelings about the shows we talked about today or which ones you want me to talk about in the future. You can also keep up with me on social media at all times. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Michael with a Y, and that is spelled exactly as it is on here. Don't forget to smile, and remember, glasses are sexy.